Tariro Chapter 7, The Teacher Who Remembered. The cold season slowly faded from Zivhu village, and warmer winds began moving across the hills of Masvingo. Green leaves returned to the trees, birds sang loudly in the mornings, and farmers prepared their fields for the coming rains. But inside the Moyo homestead, nothing changed for Tariro. Her suffering continued growing worse with each passing week. Every morning before sunrise, Lucia woke her with shouting and insults. By the time the rest of the household opened their eyes, Tariro had already fetched water, swept the yard, cleaned dishes, and prepared breakfast. Yet no matter how hard she worked, Lucia always found fault. One morning Tariro accidentally dropped a cup while washing dishes outside. The cup shattered against a stone. Lucia stormed outside immediately. "You careless child!" she shouted loudly enough for neighbors to hear. "I'm sorry, am I?" Tariro whispered fearfully. "Sorry will not buy another cup." Before the child could move away, Lucia grabbed her roughly by the arm and slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed through the yard. Tariro lowered her eyes silently while pain burned across her cheek. Inside the house, Joram continued reading his newspaper as if nothing had happened. He never defended her anymore. Sometimes Tariro wondered if he even remembered she was his brother's daughter. That same afternoon, Lucia handed Tariro a long shopping list. "Go to Tariro Growth Point and buy these things." Tariro's eyes widened slightly. Tariro was even farther than Namamwa shops. "Amai, it is very far." Lucia folded her arms coldly. "Did I ask for your opinion?" "No, Amai." "Then leave now." The sun burned strongly overhead as Tariro began the long journey carrying an old shopping bag. Dust rose around her feet while bicycles and Scotch carts passed slowly along the road. Her stomach felt painfully empty. She had only eaten a small cup of watery porridge that morning. As she walked, she noticed school children gathered beneath trees eating snacks and laughing together during break time. One girl recognized her immediately. "Tariro!" The child ran toward her smiling happily. It was Chipo, one of her old classmates. "We miss you at school," Chipo said warmly. "Teacher my Chiko always asks about you." Tariro forced a weak smile. "I have been busy at home." Chipo looked at her carefully. The torn clothes. The tired eyes. The thin body. Concern slowly crossed her face. "Are you all right?" Before Tariro could answer, Lucia's warning echoed inside her mind. "Do not embarrass this family." "Yes," she lied softly. "I am fine." Though unconvinced, Chipo eventually returned to school while Tariro continued walking alone. By the time she reached Tariro Growth Point, her legs already ached badly. The busy shops overflowed with people buying groceries, vegetables, and farming supplies. Music played loudly from nearby market stalls while vendors called out prices. Tariro quietly bought the items on Lucia's list before beginning the exhausting walk back home. Halfway home, dark clouds suddenly gathered overhead. Within minutes, heavy rain began pouring across the dusty roads. Tariro quickly covered the groceries with her sweater while continuing through the storm. Mud clung to her feet and cold rain soaked her clothes completely. By the time she finally reached home, she was trembling from cold and exhaustion. Lucia opened the door and frowned immediately. "Why are you so late?" "It started raining, am I?" Lucia grabbed the shopping bag and inspected the groceries carefully. "You took too long." "I walked as fast as I could." Lucia shook her head in annoyance. "Go change your clothes and start preparing supper." Tariro quietly entered the storage room and removed her wet clothes. As she changed, she noticed bruises covering parts of her arms from weeks of hard labor and beatings. For a moment she stared silently at herself. She barely recognized the girl standing before her. That evening, while cooking supper, Tariro suddenly heard a familiar voice outside the yard. "Masakati." Her heart jumped immediately. "My Chiko." The teacher entered carrying a small basket covered with cloth. "I was passing nearby," she explained warmly, "so I decided to greet the family." Lucia immediately forced a bright smile. "Ah, my Chiko. Please come inside." But the teacher's eyes had already found Tariro standing quietly beside the kitchen doorway. Shock crossed her face instantly. The child looked far worse than before. Her clothes were torn near the sleeves. Her body had become painfully thin. Even her eyes looked older. "Tariro," the teacher whispered softly. The girl lowered her gaze respectfully. "Good afternoon, my Chiko stepped closer. "My child, what happened to you?" Before Tariro could speak, Lucia interrupted quickly. "She has been refusing to eat properly since her parents died." The teacher continued staring carefully at the child. Something inside her heart tightened painfully. Teachers often noticed suffering before others did. And what she saw before her was not ordinary grief. It was neglect, fear, and hunger. "May I speak to Tariro alone?" the teacher asked gently. Lucia hesitated briefly before forcing another smile. "Of course." Outside beneath a musasa tree, my Chiko sat beside Tariro quietly. For several moments neither spoke. Then softly, the teacher touched the child's hand. "You can tell me the truth." At those words, tears suddenly filled Tariro's eyes. She tried holding them back. But the pain inside her heart had become too heavy. And for the first time in many months, someone was finally asking if she was truly all right.